We're here with Sewa. We just got done skating and wanted to take a few minutes of your time, Sewa, to ask you some questions, mainly about Flatground. We've talked a lot in the past about your strategy with skateboarding in a Flatground setting, but I was curious to know a little bit about the history of your relationship with Flatground. Was Flatground the first part of skateboarding that you kind of gravitated towards, and did you skate a lot by yourself on flat, or did you kind of like compete with friends to learn tricks, and how did that all go?
Man, so yeah, let's take it all the way back, huh?
Yeah.
I grew up in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, we do have seasons, so we would just skate wherever it was dry. Parking lots or local grocery store had like a small area that was like covered. It was just mainly flat ground skating.
Was a kickflip the first flip trick you learned? If not, which one was it?
Well, my first, I don't know, do you consider the shove it's flip tricks? Like
No.
it falls under...
It's a shove.
Okay. Well,
right?
then...
Am I tripping? Or?
Well, let's just say the first flat ground trick where... Yeah, actually the first flat ground trick period was a fakie shove it.
Okay.
The first flat ground trick I learned was a fakie shove it.
Yeah.
And it's actually because I wanted to learn a fakie kick turn. Because I don't know if you remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but when you did a kick turn, which I thought back then was called a switch, because in Tony Hawk, if you did a kick turn, it would say switch on like the top left side.
Okay.
And I didn't realize back then that just means you're in switch stance now. I would roll fakie and start turning, but then my body would just stay in position, and that's when I learned fakie shove it. And then my first actual flip trick was a kickflip body varial.
What?
First of all, when I was learning flip tricks, I kind of had it backwards. I thought a kickflip was basically, let me show you. Maybe you can describe it better.
Okay. Seva's standing on his board right now.
So I thought...
Standing regular.
I thought this is a kickflip. So doing a heel flip but with your toes. And I thought a heel flip was this.
Oh my God, okay.
So I thought a heel flip was a mobbed kickflip but with your heel. So it took me some time first to figure out like, oh no, it's actually the opposite. This is a kickflip, which is a kickflip, and this is a heel flip. So that kind of made things slightly easier.
How did you figure out the proper way? Was it through videos, or
no,
someone told you?
Someone told me. Because back then, this is like way before the whole YouTube era and everything. And skate videos at the time weren't easy to come by. Like, we didn't have a local shop where you can like watch skate videos or even buy skate videos.
Yeah.
Plus back then, I mean, skate videos at the time were like 20 to 40 bucks. So it was just someone telling me like, no, this is a kickflip and this is a heel flip. So once I understood...
Someone that was better than you at skating?
Someone who just... Well, at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone who just knew the tricks more.
Now they're not, but...
So yeah, that made things a bit easier. And then I think that same person told me when I started practicing kickflips, oh yeah, it might be easier if you like turn halfway with your board. So that's when I like started trying that, and yeah, that's when I learned kickflip body varials first.
Stationary,
Yeah.
you weren't rolling, okay.
Yeah, a part of it also had to do with the setup, because it was like my first board, which was like one of those cheap setups that's like 15 bucks and like has kind of like plasticky wheels. So even when you try to roll, you just don't get far.
Okay.
But yeah, those tricks were still, I was still learning it stationary. Well, the kickflip body varial.
Yeah.
The fakie shove it was while rolling. And then finally, somehow a few months after doing a bunch of like kickflip body varials, because I would just say, oh yeah, I learned how to do a kickflip. And people were like, no, but that's actually a kickflip body varial. And
Kickflip frontside body varial?
I guess clockwise. I'm goofy footed, so yeah, kickflip.
Frontside.
Yeah,
Like
clockwise.
you do
body
a frontside flip, but you're bored.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then a few months later, that's when people just kept saying like, oh, that's actually not a kickflip, but it's a kickflip body varial. But it seemed like people were kind of digging it.
Hell yeah.
But then, for some reason I got to a point where I was like, oh, I actually want to see how it feels to like just do a bunch of like regular kickflips, and they started working, and since then it was just regular kickflips.
Okay. Kickflip body varial and then kickflip. Do you remember kind of the trajectory of the rest of the straight eight? Was it straight eight only, or did you kind of deviate to varial flips? Did you learn tray flips before you learned switch heel flips, for example, or do you remember those details?
I remember once I learned a kickflip, I remember heel flips. I wouldn't say it was super easy, but it started coming a little easier. It made sense to like, do kind of a similar movement, but just the opposite way with your heel. So I remember learning that one relatively quick. And then for some reason, within my first few months, I also learned double flips, which I lost for the longest time.
That explains a lot.
It does and it doesn't. Because for the longest time, I didn't do them. It was just like, it's more like a funny trick I learned. Because back then, I don't remember seeing people do double flips, but people talking about double and triple flips. Because like also back then in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, like if your special meter was full, you could do like a triple flip.
Okay.
There was definitely no way I was going to learn that, but I do remember at some point learning double flips kind of for fun, and I know we kind of laughed about it, and then I just stopped doing them for the longest time. And it's not till I think the past 12 years that I really figured out how I set up for double flips that like you can do them and actually like they bone out and you can like catch them, you know? Back then I think, I do remember learning ferro flips at some point, and the trick I really wanted to learn was an impossible. I remember someone telling me what an impossible was. Once I finally learned it, it took me, I think after like 9 months of skating, that was kind of like my special go-to trick.
So you figured out the wrap?
At the time, yeah. Like I think, like I can do impossibles here and there now, but I used to actually wrap them way better back then compared to now. Now it's kind of like, sometimes it's more like a 360 shove it wrap, sometimes it wraps a little bit more, but back then it was like a really proper impossible wrap.
What's your favorite of the straight eight? Do you have a preference? Like, am I right when I guess that it's a kickflip?
Yeah, it's a kickflip.
Do you have a least favorite?
I mean, it's weird. I think fakie heel's my least favorite, but fakie heels do feel better than regular heel flips. It's a big contradiction, I know.
Doesn't need to make sense, but it's interesting.
Like earlier we played a game of skate and I did a fakie heel.
Yeah.
And that one felt decent.
Yeah.
But for some reason when I think of it, it's maybe because it takes the most effort with like setting up. As I'm trying a fakie heel, I really have to like talk a bit in my head, like, okay, set up like this, don't like, you know, hang your toes off just a little bit, but not too much. And with like nollie heel or switch heel, it's just like, kind of feels more like second nature, I guess.
So learning switch heels and nollie heels and just switch tricks in general, did that come down to just thousands of attempts to the point where it became second nature, or did you figure out like a hack that made it feel more comfortable, or kind of a combination of both?
I mean, I feel like my first year of skating, I didn't even really do anything switch. I didn't really know that switch was a thing back then. It was until after a year that I kind of started playing around with switch flips stationary, and I learned them, but they were like kind of like really mobbed and just didn't really feel great. Back then I just felt like, well, if you're goofy footed, you skate, you know, you do regular tricks with your left foot in the back, and you know, if you're regular footed, it's vice versa. So when I learned the switch flip stationary back then, I was kind of like, oh, okay, fun. It's you know.
It's another flip trick.
It was more like, okay, I just did a few and that's it. Like I don't really care for it, you know. So that was after skating for 2 years that I was really like seeing more people doing switch tricks, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to learn that a bit more too, like just play around with it, and that's how it kind of came about. And then, or the same way you just skate and start learning tricks, it was kind of the same switch. It wasn't in a way of like, oh, I'm really trying to like tune into this and trying to really practice it. It's just, I guess, mess around and try, you know, switch tricks a bit more often. And as the years went by, I would just learn different tricks, regular fakie, switch, nollie, but not really thinking too much about it, whether, you know, what stance it really was.
Is there a trick that you had a lot of trouble learning but now feels relatively easy?
Yeah, tray flips. Yeah, I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, tray flip is an interesting one like that, because I feel like it's one of the hardest flip tricks to learn. But then once you learn them, it's considered kind of a more basic trick, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think learning tray flips is like just tray flips in general. Like I don't think there's anything really basic about them at all. But I guess once you have them, you just kind of have them. But yeah, learning the tray flips was definitely one of the hardest flip tricks, and also keeping tray flips, because I would learn them, then I would lose them for some time, then relearn them, and then I think it wasn't until I was 15 that I remember relearning tray flips, and I had them for 9 months and I lost them again. And that's also kind of the era where the foot dangle, the yo flips or Euro tray flips, whatever definition or whatever you want to call it, that's when that thing became kind of fashionable. And I remember starting to learn tray flips with like, you know, I started pulling my back foot back a bit more, but that's how I finally learned them consistently. Like from that moment, it was like I never lost tray flips again.
Getting rid of the dangle helped you?
No, doing
the dangle.
Doing the Euro foot, or I'll call it the Euro foot, but stanky leg, yo flip, whatever you want to call it, yeah. So once I learned that, that's when I was like, okay, that's when I really felt like I have the tray flips on lock. But it always kind of bothered me that when I learned that, my tray flips always like, the pop stayed kind of lower compared to every other flip trick. It always kind of like bothered me that whenever I would do flip tricks on flat, like, you know, they would just pop a certain height. But with tray flips, I felt like they always kind of stayed pretty low to the ground with that foot dangle. And I think that's one reason why I kind of relearned them the past, like, I guess 5 years.
Yeah.
I just felt like, I want to like have them a bit more popped on flat, but also maybe it helps like trying to pop over stuff by tucking the back foot in again. Back to your question, tray flip was the hardest trick, not only to learn but also to really like keep.
People say your kickflip might be the best flat ground kickflip in the world. Do you agree with people that say tray flips are easier than kickflips? Once you master both, do you find yourself like, I don't have to try as hard to land a tray flip as I do to land a kickflip? Is that true?
Yeah, it's an interesting one like that. I definitely think warming up, I usually do kickflips first, but yeah, I remember for the longest time, even like breaking new shoes, for example, like I normally prefer to do tray flips first on new shoes or like new gear. It just feels easier. Like kickflips definitely cost more effort to, I guess it also depends how you kickflip or if you want to kickflip a certain way. But yeah, I feel like tray flips you can kind of throw a certain way. Like you can, if you want to do them kind of lazy, you can just do that. And also the flick, like with kickflips, I definitely feel like you have to flick a little harder or quite a bit harder. And again, with tray flips, it's, you don't really have to flick that hard. Even if you're sore, like tray flips definitely come easier when you're sore than kickflips. So yeah. I don't know which one's necessarily easier, but yeah, at some point, I guess tray flips feels a little lighter.
Yeah. Anything we didn't touch on that you want to bring up before we wrap up?
There was just so much happening this year with my health that, like, yeah, overall I was just also just happy to be part of another CFS again, like, because I remember earlier this year, I mean, you invited me for CFS 2. I just remember giving a lot of like mixed signals where I was like, hey, I'm down for it. Then I was like, hey, I'm dealing with this health stuff, I can't. And then later, as I was in the hospital, I think I told you that, yeah, sure, I'm, end of January I'll be there. And then a few days later, as I was still in the hospital, I was like, oh, sorry, I can't do it. Like, so there was just a lot happening health-wise earlier this year. And as I said before, it took a good, 6 to 7 months to really, get my full strength back. Overall, I was just really happy to, be out skating with everyone again. The health is definitely still at a point where, I'm still getting treatments. Like, every 8 weeks from now, I have to get IV treatment. And then I have another pill that I take. So both of those medicine, they lower your immune system. So with that being said, also do have to take it a bit easier with everything that I do. So, when it comes to skating, I have to make sure I don't overskate because and this is just outside of the contest, just in general, if I skate half an hour too long, there's a big chance I'll wake up getting sick the next day. I've also been working part-time outside of skating, but even with working, it's if you overwork a bit, same thing. And so overall, just with everything I do, I have to take it a lot easier. I guess overall, I've always been, pretty appreciative of everything with skating and just being part of everything that's happening in skating. But there's definitely almost an additional newfound appreciation. Just, being back on my board again, feeling like my legs are back at 100, have to definitely manage my health.
That's one of those things I imagine where you're you don't know how gnarly it is until you go through that shit. So the fact that you came out on the other side, I think a lot of people are stoked that you look like you didn't skip a beat, basically,
Thank you.
But we know that you went through hell,
It's interesting you say that because I felt as I was going through all the health stuff, I guess as I was going through it, I just felt well, it is what it is. It's just something I'm dealing with. And, I guess after I put my video out about talking about it, that's when it kind of hit me more that oh shit, I went through a bit more than I initially thought that I did.
We were in the hospital for months, right? That's.
Oh, no. The hospital, I was in and out.
In and out.
But no, it was, my first time was 10 days. So that's when I got diagnosed with Crohn's, and they did a bunch of testing and also walked around with a drain for a few weeks, and then went back to the Netherlands, did follow-up care out there, and then end up in the hospital there again for another 11 days. And
okay, it's not months, but still
But I wasn't on the board for a few months, So
okay.
So I was dealing with the health stuff not being on the board for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And then, once I got back on the board...
not only were you not on the board, you lost, 25 pounds or something? You lost a lot of weight?
Yeah, lost a
lot of muscle?
Yeah, in the meanwhile, I ended up losing 24 pounds. So I lost a lot of muscle. So it was interesting because once I got back on the board, late February, it was my balance was still there, but my power, my strength just wasn't there at all.
Right.
So, even trying to ollie up a curb was, was really hard. It was, really hard to get on. Trying any type of flip trick, even forming the flip, I just really didn't have strength to even form a flip trick properly. And then even landing flatground tricks, my legs were really weak. So I would land a flatground trick and just fall over because my legs couldn't even handle the flatground impact. Yeah. And then, as days went by and weeks went by and months went by, tricks started coming back more and more. I feel it wasn't until summer that I really started feeling more and more comfortable and confident again. And eventually about 6 to 7 months later when I was able to say okay, now my strength's completely back, I'm back skating at 100.
Yeah.
There was a spot in Amsterdam that we would have sessions at every Wednesday. It was a road barrier there, and once I was popping over that, I was oh shit, I guess I'm back at 100%. Yeah. Because what's weird about it is also, I guess, the psychological aspect where when I was ollieing over that road barrier, rolling up to it, I was oh, I don't know if I can do it. But then as I popped over it, I was oh, it actually felt pretty chill. And then I tried a few kickflips and, rolling up to it still a bit hesitant, oh, I'm gonna, pop over it, flip over it. But then even the first few kickflips that I didn't land but just flipped over it, I was oh, it actually felt pretty easy. So once I did a few tricks over the road barrier, I was okay, now I'm happy to be able to hop over stuff again, but also now I can confidently say again, cool, I'm back at 100%.
Yeah.
skating wise.
Stoked that you could come back and do well, not only recover, but then do well enough to place top 3 in a pretty hefty flat ground game of skate contest. So
Yes, yeah. It was a fun one, and also like you said, it was definitely a heavy roster.
yeah. Anything we didn't touch on that you want to bring up before we wrap up? I think we've covered a lot.
I think we covered a lot too. Yeah. Thanks again. I mean, thanks again for organizing this and for hosting it the way you did. The sandwiches were great. Helped
That's
a lot.
Zach.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Zach.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nick for upping the prize money too.
Yep.
Yeah. Shout out to you again for hosting and organizing it, bringing us all together. I think.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. So
Of course, man.
cool.